if you're going to say they got it right, then I'd say I disagree with that strongly. The process sucked. And you can understand why Notre Dame is going to sit here and say, hold on a second. We were here this entire time. We went out and dominated every single week. I didn't play anybody. They beat more teams with a winning record the last month and a half than Alabama did.
This is the Third Down Conversation. Let's talk about it. That was a clip from Crane and Company, and they were talking to Brian Driscoll, who is a beat writer for Notre Dame Fighting Irish. I clipped that part of the interview because I don't think he's completely wrong. I actually believe he has a point. But let's start with the first part of it. And as it opened, it said, the process sucks. And what he's talking about is our current system. And he's right. It's awful. This system is actually worse than the BCS. And it's worse because the BCS could not be persuaded. It was a system strictly driven by numbers. That's it. Now, could you play weak opponents to make your numbers look better? Absolutely. Absolutely. And that was a bit of the problem. But you could have went in and tweaked certain aspects of it to where that didn't really affect things. But our current system, it can be persuaded. We have a committee now. ESPN and SEC, they in bed together. The Big Ten and Fox, they in bed together. And most college football fans, including myself, thought that a committee and a playoff system would make it so much easier and more, I guess, fair than the BCS. And boy, were we wrong. And the fact that this system is not working shouldn't shock anybody. Think about when man gets their hands on anything. It usually goes wrong. And it usually goes wrong because money gets involved. And that's what we have right now. College football used to be, in some sense, pure. You knew some money things were going on, but it wasn't in your face. Now, it's evident that it's driven by money. And this system is so bad that 2 Group of 5 teams got in the playoffs. Not 1, but 2. Tulane and James Madison. You've got to be kidding me. Ain't no way. How does Tulane and James Madison get in over a 10-2 Vanderbilt, a 9-3 Texas, an 11-2 BYU? How? Tulane played Ole Miss and lost 45-10. James Madison played Louisville and lost 28-14. Louisville's not even that good. Tulane and Ole Miss are going to play again in the playoffs. The spread is like 20. James Madison is going to play Oregon. The spread is like 21. I thought it was about getting the best teams in. Now, I understand that at least 1 Group of 5 has to make it, and I'm cool with that. Most people don't want that. I'm fine with that. I have no problem with, letting a Group of 5 team in, the most deserving one. But 2, that's too far. That means there's something wrong with our current system. Because those 2 teams, if you look at their schedules, they are not, or they should not be, as 2 of the best 12 teams in the country. They just shouldn't. They just shouldn't. So what I do propose is to fix all this is that we go to more of an NBA system. And this is what I mean. But the NBA right now, the top 10 teams make the playoffs in a sense. What they do is your top 6, they're in. And then 7 through 10, they play what they call play-in games. 7 to play 8. If 7 wins or whoever wins that game, they're in. 9 and 10 will play. The loser of that game is out. And the winner of that game will play the loser of 7 and 8. Now, I'm not saying do that part of it just like that, but what I am saying is they should have play-in games. You take your 14 teams. Your top 10 teams are in. And then the other 4 will play-in games to get it down to 12. With that system, Notre Dame could have got in, also Vandy, or Texas, or BYU. And while people will still be upset about 2 group of 5 teams getting in, this would not be as big of a deal because Notre Dame would be in, and you can get one more quality opponent in the playoff as well. Those 2 group of 5s could play those, could play Vandy, could play BYU or Texas, those fringe teams, and we go from there. I think that could fix a lot of problems. So yes, the system sucks and definitely needs to be fixed. The second portion of that interview, Brian Driscoll states that Notre Dame should be in over Alabama. And originally I was like, nah. He's a little butthurt. Notre Dame doesn't really play anybody. However, the more I looked at it, the more I let it kind of just mull over in my brain, he might not be far off. Now, let's state the obvious. Most people are going to say Alabama should be in because they're in the SEC. And the SEC is perceived to have the best teams, which makes Alabama's schedule more difficult. Okay. If you want to go the strength of schedule route, that's fine. Bama's like in the 20s, 30s, and Notre Dame is like in the 50s. But let's take a deeper look here. Not too deep, but just a little bit deeper. From an overall team stats perspective, Notre Dame is more balanced. They threw for over 200 yards while also rushing for over 200 yards. Alabama, on the other hand, they're more heavy with the pass. They probably threw for like 20 more yards, like on average. So like Notre Dame was in like the 250s. Alabama was in the 270s per game. These are averages. Rushing wise, Notre Dame was like 205, like 210, while Alabama was more like 115, 116. These are average rushes per game. So Notre Dame, more balanced on offense. On defense, pretty much a wash. Both were stout in the run. Alabama was a little better in the pass as far as defense. Notre Dame was a little less, but defensively, kind of a wash. They were really, really close. So you look at that standpoint, just off of the stats alone, Notre Dame is the more complete team, meaning offensively, they can do everything. Defensively, they can do everything. Alabama has had trouble running the ball all season long on offense. That's been a constant problem. Even the playoff committee said themselves, once Bama lost to Oklahoma, one of their concerns about Alabama as a team is their inability to run the ball. So that's the first thing. Notre Dame is more complete. The next thing is this. Notre Dame and Alabama have the same number of quality wins. Now, a quality win is a win over a team that is above 500, meaning they beat a team whose finishing record was 7-5 or better. Notre Dame has 5. Alabama has 5. Now let's move to the strength of schedule, because this is where Alabama fans are going to hang their hat. This is going to be their everything right here. Strength of schedule. We the SEC. If you look a little deeper into that, the strength of schedule, a lot of it is determined by preseason rankings, which I think is unfair. A preseason ranking is nothing more than an educated guess. That's it. That's all it is. We're going to assume that this team is going to be good. LSU was like in the top 10 at one point. South Carolina, top 15, top 12, maybe top 10 at one point. They definitely came in ranked in like 15 or higher. South Carolina did. Tennessee, people believe those teams would be good, but that didn't happen. It just didn't happen. LSU went 7-5. South Carolina went 4-8. And the big one is, okay, Bama beat Georgia. What about that? They beat Georgia on the road. Fair enough. Notre Dame does not have a win that can match beating Georgia on the road. But they also don't have an L as bad as Florida State. A bad loss gotta matter. It has to. Bama beat Tennessee, Vandy, and Missouri. This is minus Georgia. And I think Notre Dame have equivalent wins to those in NC State, USC, and Pittsburgh. So if you really look at the schedule as far as the strength of it, because I think strength of schedule isn't a great argument. It should be more of a strength of record, and that's just how your teams performed for that season. I think it's closer than what people actually want to believe, especially when you add in the fact that you lost to Florida State by 2 touchdowns. A Florida State team that got dog walked by Florida. That got to matter. That has to matter. Because if it doesn't, then why do we play the games? And my last point as to why I think Brian Driscoll is making sense is that conference championship game. Georgia completely outclassed Alabama in that game. And Bama fans are going to say, well, Alabama had to play an extra game, so that game shouldn't count. I disagree. And I disagree because before you play Auburn, you play Eastern Illinois. That's an FCS school. While Notre Dame played 12, count them, 12 FBS schools. So you didn't play an extra game, in my opinion. You can't count Eastern Illinois. Like, come on, man. Eastern, really? Come on. Eastern Illinois. So you didn't play an extra game, in my opinion. The stats say that. People showed up to the game on that day. There were refs. That was a final score. But in my mind, it didn't count because it shouldn't have counted because that game should never be played. And that's shame on all SEC schools who do that. Look, that game is completely pointless. But the committee then tells you that, well, that game had no bearing. And I beg to differ. Because if Alabama won that game, would they go up? We all know they would have. They would have risen. Therefore, the game did have bearing. It can't not have bearing if they lose, but if they win, it does have bearing. That ain't right. That doesn't make sense. You can't say that. Furthermore, in 2017, when Auburn beat 2 number 1 teams in a span of 3 weeks, they rose to like number 2 in the country. and then played in the SEC championship game against Georgia and ironically lost 28-7. They dropped 5 spots. And you're going to say, well, the system was different. No, it wasn't. Same system. There was a committee. Are there more spots? Yes. But the system is the same. Auburn dropped. BYU played in their conference championship game. They got killed too. They dropped. But Alabama doesn't? Like, how does that make sense? In 2017, how many teams? How many teams? Because when Florida State got left out, they go undefeated, win their conference, and get left out for Alabama. All Bama fans told me was, it's not about most deserving. It's about best. The best team should get in. In 2017, how many teams do you believe can beat 2 number 1 teams in a span of 3 weeks and beat them handily? How many? Because we know Auburn is one of them. Who else could do it? In this situation, is it most deserving or is it best? And if it's best, then it has to be Notre Dame. To close out the show, I'm about to talk about something that, frankly, I wish I wasn't talking about. And so here we go. Sherrone Moore, Michigan's head football coach, was fired for having an inappropriate relationship with a staff member. Before I even, jump into all this, I've been on Twitter, I've been on social media, and the things I'm seeing out in the world, it's so sad. Like, it's sad. This situation is a sad situation. I mean, the guy has a wife. He's got 3 kids. And people are just making fun of him, making memes about a guy who tried to or thought about killing himself over this situation. And it just made me think that as a society, we have to stop shaming each other. I'm sure his level of shame and guilt, like his level of shame and guilt is through the roof. It has to be so intense for him to think about not wanting to be here anymore. And as a human being, as a person, we have to draw the line. There has to be a certain line that we are not going to cross as individuals. Just as a decent person. Like, I extremely dislike the memes, the jokes about a guy's, transgressions. Like, I don't even understand why people went out and found the alleged girl that he had an affair with. Like, what does that accomplish for you? How does that give you any sort of satisfaction? Like, I'm sure he knows how much damage he's caused to his family, how much hurt he's caused. The second thing I want to say about this situation is, oftentimes when individuals are in positions of power and said positions have certain standards, as a society, we believe that these individuals are perfect. And we are so shocked when things come out about them, so much so that we pass judgment. Like, well, now Sherrone is clearly not a leader of men. And we focus so much on him not being said thing. He's not a leader of men because of this decision. And I think that's just unfair. He made a mistake. That doesn't mean that he can't lead. It means that he's not perfect. And I am in no way defending Sherrone Moore at all. I'm just simply saying, as a society, we are so quick to pass judgment about what a person isn't when their dirty laundry is aired in front of everybody. But he is going to have to wear this. He did lose his job. They fired him with cause. And now they have to find a new head coach. There are a few names out there. Reportedly, they may go after Kalen DeBoer, Alabama's head coach. But this situation is just sad. Very, very sad. And, man, I hate it for him. I hate it for his family. But we got to give grace, people. We got to give grace. This has been the Third Down Conversation. Please like, subscribe, and share the show. I am D. Turnip Seed. Jesus loves you, and I'm out. Peace.